Hello. When undertaking due diligence on a nature-based solutions project, one of the things that you might want to be doing is to identify the risks of non-permanence to your project. So within here there are a number of different risk factors, but in this video we are going to have a look at flood risk. So we are essentially using trends in surface water, using the JRC water classification to identify if a project site is susceptible to flooding. So what we have on the map is for Cambodia. We can zoom in slightly. So on the map we have dark blue areas in our permanent water, and light blue is seasonal water. So seasonal water is basically areas that in any given month have been covered in water. So what we're looking at on the map is the maximum extent of water since 1984. So this is basically anywhere that has been identified as having had water coverage since 1984. Permanent water is classed as something where there's water for the majority of the year. So the seasonal water is likely to be areas of flooding or areas of wetland. Here we've got the maximum extent, and then underneath that we have the average coverage. So this is, over all of those years, what's the average extent of these different types of water. So we can see that the maximum extent is significantly bigger, but largely the Tonle Sap in the middle and the Mekong River remain fairly stable. By going to the dashboard tab, we can then compare, for each of our project sites, we can compare how much area is impacted by seasonal water and how much area is covered by permanent water. So we can see that maximum extent and we can see the average extent. So if you are considering whether your area is likely to flood on a frequent basis, we can look at the average extent. For example, the proposed project here, there is just under 3 hectares that on average have had some kind of seasonal water, but they've never had any permanent water. Whereas the maximum extent, so the years in which there's been the widest coverage of water, we've got 33 hectares are seasonal water, so that's likely to be the largest extent of flooding. And for permanent water, there's almost 3 hectares. So I think what that tends to mean is there are some areas where flooding is relatively frequent, and in some years the water is there all year round. But in general, there's maybe those 3 hectares are likely the areas that might flood, but it has been up to a much larger area. So, and if we zoom into this project location here, we can see how that actually looks on the map. So as this loads up, this is the maximum area, and so we can see that largely it's some areas in the middle here. Compare that to the average extent, and really it's this area in here which is likely to be a small lake or reservoir, or even related to agriculture. So in order to run this particular workflow, why don't I clear my map and clear the workspace? So in order to run a particular workflow, what we can do is we can, and to run it for your own project area, we can click Add Area, and we can upload a polygon. So I'm going to choose a location in South America, so in Venezuela. And then if I go to Load Project, and then under Templates, if I search for floods, we can see that all the workflows related to template projects and workflows related to floods come up. And so I can press Open, and if I load without areas, I can then run this workflow. So we have some outputs on the map now. If we just make the map bigger, so this area is dominated by this lake at the top with a few kind of key rivers. Some of these rivers seem to be seasonal in nature, so not always as much area underwater. But then again, we can compare that in other years. There's the average kind of year is much less than that. So thank you very much.